The war seemed far away, then strangely close. After the fighting in North Africa, trains and ships began bringing captured German and Italian soldiers across the Atlantic to the United States, where the battlefields were distant and the coastlines safer. The decision was practical and uneasy at once. Britain was running short of food and space, and America had both room and growing need for labor. Across more than 700 camps, the prisoners found fences, guard towers, and rules, but also beds, meals, medical care, books, music, and the strange discipline of ordinary days. For the military, the camps were not only a duty under the Geneva Convention. They were also proof that democracies could guard enemies without becoming them. Among the prisoners was Karl, a German mechanic with careful hands and a habit of watching before speaking. He had expected hunger and brutality. Instead, he was assigned to a cotton farm in the south, where he rose before dawn, picked in the heat, and exchanged a token wage for cigarettes and a razor blade. He worked beside Americans whose sons were overseas. At first they spoke little. Then one farmer asked Karl if every man in Germany really believed the speeches on the radio. Karl did not know how to answer. In another camp, Ernst, a hardline officer with sharp eyes and a loud voice, gathered loyalists in the shadows. He called civilians in uniform traitors and threatened men who listened to American newspapers or attended English lessons. A few prisoners disappeared into punishment cells arranged by their own comrades. When the guards uncovered the pattern, they separated the extremists from the rest. The camp changed after that. The noise softened. Men who had once marched in step began arguing in whispers. Some tried to escape, driven by pride or fear, but America was vast and unfamiliar. A stranger in prison clothing did not blend into a Kansas road or an Iowa town. Farmers called the sheriff. Shopkeepers pointed. Most fugitives were caught within days, tired, hungry, and embarrassed by the dryness of the endless roads. Yet not every story moved toward failure. In one rural camp, prisoners helped harvest beets and repair irrigation ditches. They listened to lectures on democracy, watched documentary films, and read newspapers stripped of propaganda. A few laughed at the awkwardness of the lessons. Others kept the books after lights out and read them twice. Karl found himself thinking less about victory and more about the country around him. It was not kind exactly, and not innocent, but it was orderly in a way he had never known. People worked, complained, argued, and still managed to treat prisoners as men expected to return home. When Germany surrendered in May 1945 and Japan followed in September, the camps emptied slowly. Some prisoners went home at once. Others stayed longer to help with harvests before repatriation began. Years later, a handful would come back to the United States as immigrants, carrying with them an image no propaganda officer had intended. The camps on American soil had held enemies, but they also exposed something larger. War reached into labor, law, fear, and persuasion. Behind the barbed wire, nations measured not only power, but character.